a total breach, as it were. The CJP says it has received reports of students and volunteers being detained or arrested in states including Bihar, West Bengal and Assam. It has demanded the immediate release of those detained, withdrawal of FIRs across BJP and the NDA-ruled states particularly, and a written guarantee from the centre by Tuesday, their fresh ultimatum. The warning is equally direct. Honor the assurances or the protests and the agitation will return. Let's first listen in to what CJP spokesperson Saurav Das has said about what he describes as a complete breach of the total agreement.
25 तारीख को हम लोगों ने कॉल ऑफ किया ये प्रोटेस्ट। हमारी आशंका थी कि शायद फ्यूचर में जब थोड़ा सा मोमेंटम कम हो जाए या थोड़ा ये प्रोटेस्ट का जो माहौल है वो थोड़ा गिर जाए, उसके बाद शायद ये सरकार इंडिविजुअल लेवल पे लोगों को टारगेट करना शुरू करे। एंड ये बहुत क्रेडिबल एप्रीहेंशन है, क्योंकि आपने देखा होगा दूसरे प्रोटेस्ट में भी सेम प्लेबुक यूज किया गया है। दूसरे जो पहले अच्छे प्रोटेस्ट रहे हैं, बड़े प्रोटेस्ट रहे, उसमें ऐसे ही लोगों को इंडिविजुअली टारगेट करके फंसाया गया झूठे मुकदमों में। तो कॉकरोच जनता पार्टी सारे छात्रों के लिए शुरू से डे 1 से उनको लीगल हेल्प एंड जो अभी मेडिकल हेल्प सब कुछ प्रोवाइड कर रही है। लॉयर से भी कोऑर्डिनेट करके उन लोगों को देश भर में हेल्प कर रही है। तो इसी आशंका पे हम लोगों ने कपिल जी से गाइडेंस मांगा था एंड कपिल सर के कुछ सुझाव थे।
Well, the centre has not publicly responded to these latest allegations yet. But what makes this particular debate more interesting is that Sonam Wangchuk's position also appears to have evolved a little bit. When he ended his 26-day fast, he had stressed that peaceful protesters should not face criminal cases and that a written assurance was essential before the movement could be suspended. However, after visiting Rajghat today, Wangchuk also drew an important distinction. He said, peaceful protest is a constitutional right that must be respected, but if anyone acts with malicious intent, the law must take its own course. Let's listen in to what Sonam Wangchuk had to say as well.
मुझे उम्मीद है कि वादे निभाए जाएंगे। जो शांतिपूर्ण जो प्रदर्शन कर रहे हैं उन पर कोई एक्शन नहीं होगा। अगर शरारती तत्व हो जो साफ शरारत के लिए कर रहे हो, तो हम ये नहीं कह सकते हैं कि कहीं भी कुछ ना हो और कुछ भी हो।
Cases have indeed been registered. Can this simply be withdrawn, or is there a legal process that must be followed here? Because an FIR doesn't disappear through a political announcement alone. Depending on the stage of the investigation, the police must prepare a closure report, submit it before the judicial magistrate, and ultimately it is the court that decides whether the case is closed or not. At the same time, official figures show that cases have been registered in connection with protest-related incidents across multiple states. So, take a look at this. In the national capital, Delhi, police registered 15 FIRs linked to the July 20th protest. In West Bengal, 7 FIRs followed the Esplanade violence. In Bihar, FIRs have been registered against hundreds of named accused along with thousands of unidentified persons after the Patna clashes. Now, whether all of these involve peaceful protests or whether some relate to allegations of violence and vandalism is precisely where the debate becomes legally and politically complicated. So tonight, that's what we're going to try and attempt to decode. The questions that go well beyond the politics. Has trust between the government and the protest, the outfit, the movement begun to fray even before the reform process has started? And were the assurances unconditional, or were they always meant only for peaceful protesters, quote unquote? And can this moment become another flashpoint? There's another ultimatum from the Cockroach Janta Party, or will dialogue once again prevail? Let's open this up for discussion. Nirmal Kaur, former DGP Jharkhand, with us. Many thanks for taking out the time, ma'am. And Advocate Nikhil Jain, political analyst, with us on the broadcast as well. Nice to have you with us, Nikhil, once again. Madam DGP, can governments legally withdraw FIRs? Let's establish that first. After these large-scale protests, after what we've seen in the national capital, after, statements from both these sides, does every case have to be examined independently based on the nature of the alleged offence? And can governments, with one political announcement, legally withdraw FIRs? Help the common man out there.
The FIR is a very, very vital document, document of the court. It is a very basic thing for any crime, for the functioning of the entire system. So FIR cannot just be made to disappear by a wish. I mean, of course, it is part of the negotiations. They got a they got it. One of the terms is that the FIRs will be cancelled. That is what apparently Shri Nadda and Shri Jitendra Singh promised the students. Now the thing is, FIR doesn't disappear like this. You remember the Red Fort protests of 2022 farm laws? There also, when the FIRs, that route was taken, that the LG wrote to the then Chief Minister, and the Chief Minister sent it to the then Home Minister of Delhi. And then, after due signing of the files, those, I think some roughly 17, 20 FIRs were taken away.
Yeah.
Now in Delhi, we have these 15 FIRs and in other states also. So that is, under the CRPC or BNSS, FIRs cannot just disappear by a political statement or by the, by a government agreeing to something. There is a process under CRPC. There is a process under BNSS, which will have to be followed in order for, FIRs to be. And there's another route, you could go to the High Court and get the FIR squashed. But then there are other riders, What about antisocial elements? What about the criminals,
Yeah. If peaceful protesters and those accused of violence are part of the same protest, the same students' movement, how does the police then distinguish between the two whilst taking legal action and letting law take its own course? I mean, that's a catch-22 for the police, we agree.
There is a way. There is a way. The first time genuine students, those who don't have a past, no cases in the past, they are genuine students protesters in all. I mean, that could be the one yardstick. And those who have a criminal past or who have some antecedents, criminal antecedents, antisocial elements, they cannot just be, you cannot let them go just because there's an agreement. Those are professional criminals. A distinction has to be made between genuine students indulging in peaceful protest, which is very much their right, and those antisocial elements. That police will have to do its homework and distinguish between the two. And those antisocial elements definitely should not be let off.
Okay.
But the genuine students should not be made to suffer at the same time.
No, 100%. Nikhil, if the centre and the Cockroach Janta Party now disagree over what was promised, we all saw the joint press conference, does that indicate that there is a communication breakdown between these two stakeholders, or there is a deeper trust deficit? Because the Cockroach Janta Party here is saying that, if we don't have written assurance by Tuesday, and one of those tweets, the ultimatum stands for tomorrow morning, and they're warning that they're again going to go sit on a protest. There is going to be another agitation. So how does one look at it politically as well?
Kabir, what has happened here is exactly what I expected out of the Modi government. This is typical bad faith play. If you might remember, the 20th of July, these people, Saurav Das and Ashutosh Ranka, were sitting with JP Nadda discussing the way forward. And the moment they sat down somewhere between 12 to 12:30 p.m. was exactly the moment when tear gas shelling by the RAF and the Delhi police began. While these people were sitting at JP Nadda's residence for 4 to 5 hours, students in Delhi were being brutalized. I'm not blaming them for it. Maybe they're not seasoned politicians. You expect them to fall, but the government indulged in bad faith play on the 20th, and they indulged in a similar bad faith play on the 25th. And this is what I've had my vision since the very start. Obviously, I've not made it very public. Fact of the matter is that you give the resignation of your minister. You call in these people for negotiations. While you're calling in them for negotiations, lathi charges did happen. They were not violent. I'm not saying tear gassing happened or anything, but lathi charges around the protest site happened at that very time. You ask them to ask the protesters to vacate. The protesters listened to their call and vacate. But fact is, on the 25th of July, there was no written agreement. There was merely a press conference, and we are dealing with a government where the defense minister stands on the floor of the house and lies through his teeth and says that nobody was killed in Operation Sindoor, only for the country to find out a year later that 6 of our soldiers were martyred. How do you really trust the word of such a government or such ministers or such a political party? There was no written assurance, and that is what the government is playing on right now. Cases are being filed, people are being harassed, people are being detained, proceedings are being initiated in Delhi, in Bihar, and in other places. However, on the other hand, no real action is being done on the policemen who committed excessive force. Yes, there was a statement by the RAF that excessive force may have been used, but they're not even clearly coming out to admit that pellet guns were used and people were shot at, despite the fact that the leader of opposition has done a press conference showing a young guy, 19-year-old, who's been shot at throughout his body with pellet guns.
Yeah,
right?
I agree. We've all seen those visuals. I'm just trying to understand, and let me play the devil's advocate here. There is source-based information that because of facial recognition cameras, about 2,500 or so miscreants were being probed. Out of that particular list, it is now fizzled down to 1,000 criminals that were part of the entire protest. Many of them allegedly murderers and rape accused that were part of the protest. So the police has to carry out its own job as well, notwithstanding the allegations of the use of the pellet gun. I'm just trying to understand, the police has a tough task cut out for itself as well.
Kabir, the resignation happened at 2:30 p.m. till 1 p.m. Every senior journalist, political commentator, BJP leaning person, BJP person, everybody was telling you one simple thing: istifa nahi hoga, resignation will not happen. We are telling you that through sources. Again, something that is classic bad faith play of this government. They will plant stories to legitimate journalists, to their own lapdog journalists, or whatever it is. They will tell one thing from the source and do completely another thing. So I have zero inclination of believing anything what these sources say. 2,500 people, 1,000 people, this, that, murder accused, rape accused. The question needs to be asked that how are so many rape accused joining a protest? What is the process in terms of, are they under trials? Are they convicted? If they're convicted, why not in jail?
If we are to take this factor into account, do you think this is going to be a problem for the Cockroach Janta Party? Because I understand they don't have a lot of volunteers. We saw the huge, sea of people at the Jantar Mantar site. Is this going to be a problem for the CJP? Does this dilute the credibility of the movement? I mean, all of these things is something that, the neutral, viewer from outside is, constantly contemplating on.
Kabir, of course, at some point it is going to dilute the credibility of the Cockroach Janta Party, but I honestly don't really blame them. I don't align with them politically. Let me make it very clear. I am not a member of the CJP, not aligned with them in any manner. But the point is, these are students. You don't really expect them to be a Sharad Pawar or an Amit Shah or an Ahmed Patel. You can't expect that level of political finesse from these young students. They've been played in bad faith, and that is what the government is doing. They've been doing it since the very start of the protest, and nobody is actually really questioning on the tough questions. Still, a very important question remains: was Sonam Wangchuk actually taken away for medical help, or was he detained? What was that? Under what law, under what provision do you take somebody, covering him up, don't allow him to talk to the media or his own family or opposition politicians for a week, and just do it all on the pretext of medical aid? Now, that same person who was abducted or detained or taken away for medical help is not even saying anything. Now, this is all very murky. And it is for the country to see what this government is doing, that when students held up in protest and they knew that they did not have a way out, they caved into the demands. But then the moment the people have dispersed, they are back to that. And even the political statements, not just government action. You look at Mahesh Jethmalani's statement. We will have to look at the funding of where the CJP people were getting their funding from. They may be getting funding from America, China, this, that. What is this nonsense? Can citizens in India not protest without a CIA hand or a Chinese hand or a this hand or a that hand? And what ridiculous level of argument it is that you are saying that the same protest is being fueled by China.
You spoke about murky waters. I'm going to take that question to, Madam DGP here. Ma'am, murky waters, the police wading through these murky waters. From your own experience, you cited the 2022 farm laws and the repeal of the same and what happened at the Red Fort. Does withdrawing these protest-related FIRs, do you think over the course of time it improves the public trust? What do you think is going to happen to the momentum on the ground? Do you think this is going to now risk sending the wrong message about law enforcement to the multitude out there?
Definitely, withdrawing the FIRs against the genuine students is not, it doesn't send a wrong message. They are, the students are agitated, they have been aggrieved, and they have come out to protest. So that is perfectly their right. But the antisocial elements that join them, I mean, we don't have to be so cynical that everything the government is saying is wrong. These lakhs of people that joined Cockroach Janta Party within, I think, 72 hours of its forming. Where are they from? Most of them are from Bangladesh, Pakistan, Turkey. What interest do they have in what is happening in India? You see the handles that were tweeting. You see how many, at least 500-600 handles were tweeting. These are matters of record. And the police also, if they are alleging something, like today, the Supreme Court has taken cognizance of the RAF violence also. But if you've gone to talk, you should not be indulging in violence. If their representatives have gone to talk with Shri Nadda and Shri Jitendra, why are the students indulging in arson and violence? And the police has CCTV footage, police has body cams, police has lots of, evidence. I mean, these days police is not so callow ki pehle ki tarah ki you can say anything. This is not Quit India movement that, that kind of the technology we have today, that technology can ascertain geographical location, the GPS, where what happened, the exact coordinates, the body cams are there, what happened from which angle, who initiated what. You don't have to, you can't make generalized allegations anymore.
But it seems like it's going to take some time for the Delhi police to, really distinguish what is a credible case and what isn't a credible case. So with the Cockroach Janta Party now putting this new fresh Tuesday ultimatum, or tomorrow morning gave us a written assurance, I don't know how much that will work essentially. My final, comment from you, Nikhil. The opposition is clearly backing the students' demand for the FIR withdrawals, all those assurances, and this is clearly becoming a broader political issue beyond the examination reform. Today, that new task force has also been, unveiled. Will this FIR flashpoint, this FIR controversy, overshadow the government's exam reform, or do you think both these issues can be addressed simultaneously? Tomorrow, it seems like a debate in the parliament is also on the cards, but given what's happened with the monsoon session of proceedings, I don't really know whether the House is going to be adjourned in the next 2-3 minutes tomorrow as well. So do you think both these issues can be addressed simultaneously?
First of all, I want to make it very clear that there was a very clear video by Abhijit showing that over 96% of the followers to his accounts were from India. They were not from Bangladesh, Pakistan, or any other countries, number one. Number two, so far as the question that you asked me, I think all of it depends on the political willingness of the government, whether they really want to fix things or not. For instance, one very simple thing that the government can do to initiate, to instill trust in these protesters and CJP is the Home Ministry can simply shoot out a letter to the Delhi Police Commissioner saying that whatever FIRs have been filed against people in connection to this protest, where you don't have direct evidence of any direct violence, closure reports shall be filed in them, and wherever the case has proceeded, the proceedings have proceeded beyond that stage, you should cooperate within the quashing proceedings that are filed before the High Court. As simple as that. One simple notification. That's not an illegal notification. That is not beyond the mandate of the Home Ministry. That is very well in line with what has been promised. But the Home Ministry, take it from me in writing, they will not do it. They want to linger it on like this. They are least interested in any education reforms. Had they been interested, they would have agreed to discuss on education reforms and NEET paper leaks on the very first day of the parliament.
It hasn't happened before. Just like Madam DGP was telling us back in the Red Fort case, about 17, 18 of those FIRs were quashed. I mean, there is a process that has to be followed. There is a procedure, but they
I'm
were
saying that
quashed.
the government can cooperate. The government can cooperate in terms of the quashing. You see, the case that is being fought in the High Court or in the trial courts from the police side is filed by the prosecutors and the additional standing counsels. They take their instructions from the government. The government can very well give them that instruction that you are not supposed to contest any quashing proceeding that is brought forth by an accused if there is no evidence of direct violence, and that's not illegal. The government is the client there, and the additional standing counsel is the lawyer representing the case. The client is very well within his rights to issue instructions. So the government can issue such an instruction to the prosecutor. The government can't say quash these cases. No, that's within the domain of the High Court. But the government can
So
tell
it's about
its
the intent
lawyers that
and
do
the
not
will.
contest.
I have to wrap this segment up. I've got my guests waiting for the segment up ahead. But, looking ahead, I think the big question is, what is going to be politically riskier for the government? Is it going to be withdrawing these FIRs or refusing to do so? Because dialogue has replaced this protest. On that particular assurance, the protest was called off. And trust is right now the biggest currency, and we don't know whether this trust is going to stand, whether promises are going to be honored or questioned, is going to decide where this movement goes on from here. Madam DGP and Nikhil, many thanks for taking on the time and speaking to us here on News 9. All right then, shifting our focus here. If you've spent even a few minutes on social media today, chances are you've come across a video that may have left you a little bit disturbed. That's right, we're talking about the viral clip, claimed to be from a soya chap manufacturing unit, that shows what appears to be workers handling food in shockingly unhygienic conditions. The most disturbing visual allegedly shows a shirtless man being dragged across a large vat of soya chap mixture, whilst others walk around barefoot and continue processing the food. That's right, viewer discretion as advised. Now, before we go any further, one important disclaimer. The exact location and date of this video, they've not been officially verified. Whilst many social media posts have linked it to Noida, several reports suggest it could actually be an older video from Agra as well. But the origin remains under verification. Irrespective of where this video was shot, it has reopened a much larger conversation. How safe is the food that we eat outside of our homes? Because this is